On May 23rd, 2017, we found out that we were pregnant with baby Robinson number 2. It was not exactly, but almost 2 years after we had Duke. And we were so excited with the thought of expanding our family. We knew as soon as we had Duke that we definitely wanted to have another one. And so we knew we wanted them to be 2 years apart. And so we began trying. And honestly, I think I got pregnant maybe the next month. It was really exciting. I started not feeling well. I was a little nauseous. Just all the things that, go through your head as a woman and you think, oh, I might be pregnant. So I took a test, one of those HCG tests, and I dropped it on there and it gave me the 2 pink lines. And I was like, oh, this could be it. I really could be pregnant. And so Antoine was at work and I just had Duke. So I went to Walmart or Target or something and I picked up one of those clear blue tests that say like pregnant or not pregnant. I came home, peed on it, and it said pregnant. Okay, so I've been feeling a little weird the past couple days. A little nauseous, a little crampy, but not really much. Just tired and nauseous. And so my period is supposed to be due today. So I thought, well, why not take a pregnancy test just to see? And so I took one this morning and it gave me like a strong line and then a really faint line. So then I went to the store to get one of those clear blue digital tests to tell you if you're pregnant or not. And so mine just happened to say pregnant. It's probably backwards because of the way the thing is filming. But yeah, I'm pregnant. I'm very excited. Oh, it's upside down. Yep. Baby Robinson number 2 is coming January 29th. And I was just elated. I'm so excited that we were going to expand our family. I remember that I took Duke out and I found him a Big Brother shirt. And when Antoine got home from work, as soon as he came in, Duke was wearing his little Big Brother shirt. And he climbed in bed with Antoine and Antoine read his shirt and he said, Big Brother, why are you wearing a Big Brother shirt? And I was like, because he's going to be a big brother. And I showed him the test and it was just so exciting. I think he was a little shell shocked, but all in all, he was very excited. I called my doctor the next week and I set up an appointment because you have to be 8 weeks pregnant, I think. And I think I was just like 4 or 5 weeks pregnant. And so they set it up for June 21st, I believe. My mom actually came in town the next week. And so when she came to the house, I had Duke in his little Big Brother shirt. And she came in and finally she read his shirt and she said, oh my God, he's going to be a big brother. I mean, it's just so exciting. Whenever you announce that you're pregnant with another baby, people are always so excited for you, especially when they're so wanted. And we wanted that baby so bad. And so baby Robinson number 2 was on the way. The following week, I was 6 weeks pregnant, and most of the time people wait until they're out of their first trimester to tell their friends and family, but we'd already had Duke. I think I told our friends at 9 or 10 weeks with Duke, and so we just went ahead and started telling our friends that we were pregnant. So I have 3 sets of friends that are really close to us, or we do, I guess, my husband and I, and 2 of them were pregnant also. And so it was really exciting to be able to share that I was going to have a baby also. And so we all 3 were going to be pregnant for the first time ever all together. And so, yeah, I got to tell them. We also in that time asked some really good friends if they would be the godparents to Duke and our second baby that we were pregnant with. It was just so exciting, such an exciting time. And I was just a tad bit nauseous, nothing crazy. I thought it's going to be blissful, just like Duke's was, and everything's going to go just so well. And then the day after we told our friends that we wanted them to be the godparents to our children, I woke up in excruciating pain. It was like 3 o'clock in the morning, maybe. And the pain was just the worst pain I've ever experienced in my entire life. And I had given birth before I'd had fibroids with Duke, and this pain was just an unexplainable pain. And so I thought maybe it was just a fibroid pain, because those can be really, really bad. Sometimes if you have fibroids, when your uterus is stretching, the fibroid is moving, and so it becomes a little painful. And so I just thought it was that, but then the pain didn't go away. And so I woke my husband up, and I have a thing where when I hit my pain threshold, I vomit. And so I told him, I said, I'm going to vomit. That's it. Like, I've hit my limit of how much of this pain I can take. So he called an ambulance and I went to the hospital. Him and my son, who was 2 at the time, rode along behind me and met me at the emergency room. And we waited. I got an ultrasound in the emergency room, and they told us that, they couldn't show us a picture because they were out of printer paper, and that the doctor would come in a minute just to tell us what was going on. But that everything was going to be okay with me. And so we waited for the doctor to come in, and she comes in and she says, we think that you had an ectopic pregnancy, and it actually ruptured inside of you in your fallopian tube, and the pregnancy is no longer viable. And she said, this isn't your fault. This isn't anybody's fault. We never know why this thing kind of happens. It just means that God had a different plan for your life and for this pregnancy. And maybe the baby wasn't what it was needing to be. And sometimes this happens, but don't feel bad about it. It happens to more women than you expect, but you are going to have to go into emergency surgery to get this taken care of and to get this, basically the baby out of my system. And then she left. And so I'd never had surgery before. The biggest thing that had ever happened to my body was when I had Duke. And so I think we were just kind of in shock for a minute while we were sitting there in the emergency room. She wasn't cold about it. She was very matter of fact. She helped me through, answered questions that we might have had, that, the pregnancy is not viable, the baby no longer is there, and basically that I had a miscarriage through ectopic pregnancy. And so I'm the type of person that takes things as they come. And I try not to be too emotional in the moment of when something is happening. I try to take it in, get all of my facts straight, learn everything I need to know, and then push forward so that we can move forward. So the next thing on my mind was, I have to have surgery. So that's where my mind went. Let me prepare myself mentally, physically, whatever, for the fact that I'm going to have surgery. They moved me to a room on the labor and delivery floor. And right before I went into surgery, I called my mom just to let her know that I would be going into surgery and that, we lost the baby. And my husband asked if he could tell our friends, or a set of our friends, basically, just so that he had someone to talk to about it also. So he did. And I remember waking up out of surgery and getting wheeled back into the room. And basically just our friends were sitting there with Antoine, and our son was there. And then the doctor came in and just said, I had to take out part of your fallopian tube on your right side because it ruptured. And so more than likely that won't be a functioning side for you to release eggs anymore, but we'll talk about it more at your next appointment when you come for your follow-up. But right now, just rest and try to heal. And so both of my friends, like I said, were pregnant in this time.
I'll never forget the call when Antoine called us from the hospital. We could tell by his voice that something terrible happened. We were absolutely heartbroken. I felt so torn. I wanted so bad to be there for my friend and tell her that I was here and how much I love her. But also, I was worried it could make it harder on her with me being pregnant, realizing this was a difficult time for her. We went to the hospital anyway to show love and support, but I still had that guilty feeling because I was still pregnant with my baby and she wasn't. I cried, I prayed, I hurt for my friends. I'll never forget that feeling. devastated and heartbroken. I know Kayla and Antoine went through a lot of pain and sadness during that season.
And so, I mean, honestly, if I'm just being honest, it was just such like an embarrassing moment for me. And I know that, no one should be embarrassed by having a miscarriage. It's not your fault. It's not your body's fault. It's just something that just kind of happens. But as a woman, it's an embarrassing time to think that my body didn't do what my body was made to do. And that's how I felt. I'm not saying that every woman feels that way. I do not think that you should feel that way by any means. It is not your fault if you are going through a miscarriage right now. It is not your fault if you are going through an ectopic pregnancy. It is not your body's fault. There's nothing wrong with you. It just happens. And it's okay. But yeah, I just remember thinking how embarrassed I was that I miscarried. And now sitting back, it's such a strange thing to think of being embarrassed, but I was. I remember recovery from that ectopic pregnancy surgery was just so rough. I had ended up bleeding internally with it, and I had to have 2 bags of blood given to me after the surgery. And it was my first surgery ever, so I didn't really know what to expect, but I just remember having to sit up to do anything and use my stomach muscles, having to get out of bed to go to the bathroom. Everything just hurt so bad. And I just remember thinking like the hurt that I feel on the outside matches the hurt that I feel on the inside, because we wanted that baby so badly. Because I felt pregnant, because I had already created that bond that you create as a mom with anything that's growing inside of your body. And to know that it wasn't there anymore and that my body just didn't do what it was supposed to do, it was just a pain that I had never felt before. It was a really rough time. They have you on the labor and delivery floor when you have a miscarriage and have to go through that surgery. So that's always sucky also, because I could hear other people having birth, giving birth. Well, not giving birth, but having their babies in the room with them and the baby's crying and you leave empty-handed, basically. The next few months were probably some of the hardest months spiritually, emotionally, and mentally that I've ever walked through. I slipped into just this hole of depression and this place of thinking I wasn't supposed to have any more kids. Maybe I was just supposed to have Duke. Maybe Duke is just our miracle child and I wasn't supposed to have any babies at all. I mean, it's just a whole lot of things that go through your mind in the midst of the months after that no one talks about. You're pregnant one day and then the very next day you're not. And then you leave the hospital or wherever it is that happens for other people when they miscarry, the bathroom, your job, wherever it may be. And you're just supposed to go back to normal life like nothing happened. And yet for you, there's a gaping hole in your body, in your heart, in your mind, in your spirit that no one else can see. There's a hurt that's going on that no one else can feel. And then they don't tell you that when you miscarry, just like after you have a baby, your body has to get used to the fact that there's no longer a baby there. And so you have to get rid of the rest of the stuff that's in your body, just like after you give birth. And so your body goes through the whole process of releasing the uterus lining that had been built up and the bleeding and the aches and pains, and mentally you're going through the fact that you no longer are pregnant. And it's just stuff no one really talks about. I'm really grateful that I had a husband as strong as I do, because he was able to pull me out of that black hole and speak life back into me and tell me that we were going to have another baby, no matter what doctor said, no matter what my mind said, no matter what I was feeling, we were going to do it. And so I said, okay. Not that easily. I didn't say okay, but I did suck it up and say, okay, I can do this. I had doubts in my own mind, doubts in my heart that we would ever have another baby. I think I had just written it off that we would always just have one child, and I was okay with it. But 7 months later, in January 1st of 2018, my husband and I decided to do something a little different, and we took out our whiteboards and we wrote down everything that we wanted for 2018. 8 things that we wanted to see happen in 2018. And number 1 was that we wanted to get pregnant, and we wanted it to be a little girl, and we wanted to have her in 2018. Now, if you're doing your math, you can only get pregnant in January, February, March of that year to have a baby in that same year. And so January 1st, I said, I want to have a baby in 2018 that's a baby girl. And I was due with baby number 2 on January 29th, 2018. And so on January 29th, 2018, I was actually peeing on another pregnancy test stick that turned out to be positive. And I was pregnant with our rainbow baby that came 9 months later in the form of a baby girl born in 2018. Now I want to speak to anybody who's watching this who is going through a time after miscarriage or a space of infertility, and you're thinking that it's just not going to happen for you. My story is not the same story for everybody. I walked through that time of miscarriage, of the months after, and believing God so desperately, holding on to the faith of my husband that we would have another baby. And we did end up having another one. And sometimes that's not always the story. But I do want to tell you that you are loved so much by a God who cares about every intricate little detail of your heart and wants to knit together your story so perfectly that sometimes we just don't understand what it's for. We don't understand what our own story is. And I think coming to that realization now, after having to go through something like that, I'm seeing it a little differently. That my story looks a little different than any of my friends who have never had to walk through a miscarriage before. My story looks a little different from someone who had a miscarriage and never got pregnant again. My story looks a little different from someone who was much further along in their pregnancy and had a miscarriage. My story looks different from someone who ended up giving birth to a baby that had a defect. My story looks different from many, many more women across the world. And everyone's story is a little different, but it's your story. And I think that more women need to share their story and what they're going through to help other women who are walking through the exact same thing. So to the mama out there who might have miscarried last week, today, last month, last year, whenever it was, it is not your fault. You did nothing wrong. Your body did what your body needed to do to make sure that you're still here. And whatever your story is, you have a story to tell and you have a purpose to chase. And now is the time to try to figure out exactly what that is. And I know that it seems like no one else in the world has walked through what you're walking through, but they have. And I have. Other women have. And I know that right now it seems like no one else can understand your pain and your hurt, but I understand it. And I just encourage you right now to lay it down and to never pick that pain back up again. To always have a place in your heart of remembrance for what you've going through, for what you've gone through, but not to let it define who you are. The days are going to get brighter. Your life is going to get brighter again. You're going to see the light again. I promise you, you will. And although right now it seems like it's just darkness all around you and it's hurt and you feel like less of a woman, because that's how I felt, like less of a woman because my body couldn't produce this pregnancy all the way through, because I was surrounded by 2 friends who were going through full-term pregnancies with little girls who are going to be born in 2017, because I was around gender reveals and baby showers and pregnancy announcements and everything that everybody else is going through life, and they don't know the hurt and the pain that you're feeling, that I felt. But be there for them still. Celebrating what they're celebrating in. My husband told me to immerse myself in what I wanted, and I wanted a baby. And so I immersed myself in throwing baby showers and throwing gender reveals and helping pregnancy announcements and praying over myself that my hurt and my pain would be healed by helping other people. And eventually it was. There's still some days that I think back and I think what it would have been like to be able to have that baby, or what it would have been like to be able to go through with that and never know that pain and embarrassment and hurt. But I think that it made me a stronger woman. It made me a stronger wife. It made me a stronger Kayla. It made me a stronger mom. It made me a stronger daughter. It made me a stronger person. It built my confidence up to another level that I'd never experienced before. And it can do the same thing for you. So I am praying for you, mama, who's out there, who might have experienced a miscarriage. I'm praying for you. I'm praying for your heart, for your soul, for your body, for that hurt that's inside of you right now tonight as you lay your head on your pillow and tears flow out of your eyes. I am praying for you. I'm praying peace over you. Peace over your body, peace over your mind, peace over that area. I pray that God fills that hole and that void inside of you like never before. And I pray that you find an understanding. I pray that you find a peace. I pray that you find a purpose. I pray that you find a love to fill that void up in a way that never would have been filled had you not been walking through what you're walking through right now. And I pray that tonight you may be weeping, tonight you may be crying, but tomorrow you wake up and you see the sun. You see a brightness. You see a glimpse of hope. You see yourself breaking through that place of insecurity. You see yourself breaking through that place of embarrassment. You see yourself breaking through that place of hurt. And I just pray for you. I pray for your heart, for your body, for healing in your body, for healing inside of your actual natural body where that baby was that you lost. I pray for healing in that area. I pray for healing in your heart. And I just pray that you start to see that you are not alone, that there are other women who are going through it, and you're not alone. In the name of Jesus. I hope that you're able to take this story that I thought I would never tell because I was too embarrassed to tell it, and that you see that you're not alone. I love you. You're doing a great job. You've got this.